We're very excited to have Jessi Klein with us tonight. We'll be joined in conversation by Lindy West. Jessi Klein is the Emmy and Peabody award-winning head writer and an executive producer of Comedy Central's critically acclaimed series Inside Amy Schumer. She's also written for Amazon's Transparent, as well as Saturday Night Live. She's been featured on the popular storytelling series The Moth, has been a regular panelist on NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and actually last week was interviewed by Terry Gross on Fresh Air. That was a great interview. You should listen to that. She's been published in Esquire and Cosmopolitan and has had her own half-hour Comedy Central stand-up special. Her brand new collection of stories and essays, You'll Grow Out of It, was published last week by Grand Central Publishing, and I found out from Jessi's tweet yesterday actually that it is now a New York Times bestseller. Joining Jessi tonight is Seattle's own Lindy West, writer, editor, and performer whose work focuses on pop culture, social justice, humor, and body image. She's a weekly columnist at The Guardian, as well as the founder and editor of I Believe You, It's Not Your Fault, an advice blog for teens. Lindy's memoir, Shrill, Notes from a Loud Woman, was just published back in May of this year by Hachette, and of course we have copies of that tonight too. So with that, please join me in welcoming Jessi Klein and Lindy West.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. This is really cool and exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's pretty dope. Yeah, we, Lindy and I just did one of these the other night, and we talked about how, we just we're like, should we just read and then do some light banter?
Yeah. And then we awkwardly talked about doing light banter for a long time.
Yeah.
Instead of actually doing the banter.
Instead of doing the banter.
We bantered about the banter.
Yeah, it was very meta.
And I think boring. And then we're doing it again.
Yeah, and see, we went right back into it. Well, should we, I think, why don't we do the thing where I'm just so obsessed with Lindy West, I just want to say. I'm so, I don't know, are you bored about with my ass kissing?
No.
Okay, cool, I'm going full throttle on it then. Everybody lock and load for
That's right.
Jessi Klein. Very sincerely kissing your butt. As I said to a crowd of people the other night, I am a big Jezebel fan and have been for many years. And I discovered Lindy's writing, as probably many people did, by the fact that every time I was reading something on Jezebel that was especially awesome and funny and smart and thought-provoking and incredible, I would be like, oh, who wrote this? And then I would look and it was always Lindy West. So I've just been such a giant fan, and I am honored, thrilled, flattered, and excited. Hot and bothered. Titillated that you would.
Turn on.
All right, let's all.
What was the erotically charged?
I don't know. I dissociated. Oh, I'm out of reading. I'm just tickled pink that you're doing that. You're a hero of mine. So anyway, Lindy West. Let's give it up for Lindy West.
Thank you.
Spontaneous applause for Lindy West.
I just hope you know that the feeling is completely mutual, and I'm obsessed with you in a real way. And I cried on a plane reading your book.
You're welcome.
I shook and cried.
If I can ruin a plane ride for someone,
I mean, yeah.
my work is done.
I was loving it before that. I was loving the plane ride.
We'll talk about the tears later.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, as you all know, Jessi's incredible, and I feel like I'm not as eloquent. I don't know how to even convey my respect. And
it feels so conveyed. I feel so safe right now. Well, we adore each other.
That's going great.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's very on board. And I told Lindy, she was like, she wasn't gonna read, and then I was like, don't be a jerkos, read a little bit. I want Lindy because she's so funny. So Lindy, you read, and then I'll read, and then we'll do more light banter. And then we'll take your questions.
Can you guys even wait for the light banter?
Oh, guys, if this feels light, wait till it gets lighter. It's gonna get real light.
Okay. So I'm just gonna read one story, very small story, because this is Jessi's night.
Oh,
And we need to
pshaw.
we need to get to the important stuff. But I'm going to read part of a chapter from my book called How to Stop Being Shy in 18 Easy Steps. And this is one of the steps. So to get all the steps, you have to buy the book.
By the book.
I did that joke on Tuesday.
It slays.
No, and then I just realized I'm embarrassed because then you saw me do it again.
No,
Pretend like it was the first
I
time.
want you to do identical
It's
what
like
you
the
did.
50th time I've done a joke. It's not even a good joke. See?
No.
What's happening?
No, you're a strong woman. I will not take the self-deprecation.
Okay, so this chapter is like me trying to figure out how I got from being a small mouse child who wouldn't speak to other human beings to what I do now, which is just yell and yell and yell constantly and force people to pay attention to me and be mean to me. And then I get paid for it. So I don't know how.
It's a win.
It's a win. And I don't know how I accomplished that because I had like a pathological, actual mental, emotional problem as a child, right? Couldn't like look people in the eye or move or talk. So I was like, how did I do that? And I don't really know, but I know that there were these moments where horribly mortifying things happened to me. And after each one, I sort of like looked around and I was like, okay, I thought this would be fatal, but I am in fact still alive. And that happened over and over and over, and it continues to happen now. And each time I become stronger, and I eat my former self and absorb her powers. Okay. So this is one of those moments I'm going to tell you about. It's step 13, tip over a picnic table while eating a Domino's personal pan pizza in the press area of a music festival. A music festival is a kind of collective hangover in which people who are cooler than you compete to win a special kind of lanyard so they can get into a special tent with unlimited free Gardettos. Here's a behind the scenes fact. They don't have Gardettos in New York City. And I recorded this story for This American Life, and Ira Glass stopped me in the middle of my story and he said, what's Gardettos? And then I had to explain it to him. But we have them here, right? Everyone knows what that is.
Yeah.
So irritating. Is there like it doesn't matter. Sorry, I need to get off okay, Gardettos aside. The only food available to the non-lanyarded hoi polloi is expensive garbage dispensed resentfully from a shack, which is how I found myself in 2010, sitting alone at a picnic table in the press area of the Sasquatch Music Festival, sweatily consuming a $45 Domino's pepperoni personal pan pizza and Diet Pepsi, and hoping nobody noticed me. Someone was interviewing the band Yacht at the next table, and I was sort of dispassionately staring at my phone, pretending like my friends were texting me, even though they weren't, because I think they were all back in the free Gardettos area playing VIP Foursquare with Santigold or something probably. I chewed my oily pork puck. A little gust of wind picked up and blew my Domino's napkin off the picnic table and onto the ground. No big deal. I leaned over nonchalantly to pick it up. Gotta have a napkin. Can't be a fat lady eating pizza with red pig grease all over my face. Unfortunately, due to my intense preoccupation with not drawing attention to myself while eating a Domino's personal pepperoni pan pizza in public at a music festival while fat, I misjudged the flimsy plastic picnic table's center of gravity. When I leaned over to grab the napkin, the table leaned over too. I fell in the dirt, the pizza fell on top of me, the Diet Pepsi tipped over and glugged out all over my dress. The table fell on top of the Pepsi, on top of the pizza, on top of me. The napkin fluttered away. Everyone looked at me. The music journalists looked at me. The band Yacht looked at me. In an attempt at damage control, I yelled, "I'm really drunk, so it's okay." Which wasn't even true. But apparently it's better to be drunk at 10 in the morning than it is to be a human being who weighs something. All that anxiety about trying not to be a gross, gluttonous fat lady eating a bad food in public. And I wound up being the fat lady who was so excited about pizza that she threw herself to the ground and rolled around in it like a dog with a raccoon carcass. Okay, so, the chapter goes on. Thank you.
So incredible.
I just want to say that the chapter goes on to repeatedly tell the readers in a reassuring way, that when horribly embarrassing things like that happen to you, it's fine, because nobody remembers. Nobody is watching you fall and, holding on to it for the rest of their lives and reliving it over and over, except for you. So you might as well let go of it and move on with your life. However, This American Life has a very rigorous fact-checking process. So when I did this story, the fact-checker emailed me and said, "Can someone corroborate you tipping over the picnic table?" And I had to go on social media and write a public post that says, "Hello, does anyone remember a lady tipping over a picnic table at the Saskatchewan Music Festival in 2010? And then some woman was like, "Oh yeah, I saw that." And then I had to put This American Life in touch with her, and they interviewed her to make sure it really happened.
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
It's a full
It
nightmare.
was 6 years ago. So yeah, no one remembers except for all
Everyone.
the people that were watching you and laughing.
Literally all of the people.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's such an amazing story. I love you. But I also love you explaining Gardettos to Ari Glass.
Yeah, I mean, and how do you explain Gardettos? It's like, there's a bunch of trash that sucks, and then there's rye chips, which are amazing.
Did I ever tell you, I'm looking to see if there are is there anyone who's like, there are people who are too young here, never mind. Okay, no.
My kids, they're fine.
No, I'm gonna skip it. I'll tell a funny story about that privately to you. Okay, so I shall
Do you have
now.
an erotic story about rye chips that you're going to tell?
I have a story about me having to, I'll tell the story without telling this word, but I became friends with this dude, this writer who, this is many years ago, who lived near me, and we became acquaintances, and we became good enough acquaintances that one day he invited me. He was like, "Oh, I'm having like a little gathering at my house. Do you want to come to the gathering?" And I'm like, "Who loves a gathering more than this girl? No one. I'm totally coming to your gathering." And I walked over to his gathering, and the gathering, like to me, a gathering is like 10 people or more, like 10 to 15. 15 plus is a party. I got to his house, and it was very much not a gathering. It was very much 3 people hanging out in his living room, one of whom was his college roommate at Norton, the actor. So I just went, well, imagine how I felt. And I love Ed Norton, and I was just like, I had that moment of like, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool. Okay, the coolest way to be cool right now is to just super ignore him in a very cold, shitty way. And even though there were like 3 people there. Because that's like real cool, is just to be, just not friendly. I don't know, so I kind of just tried to be in an opposite corner of the apartment in this non-gathering, and I'm talking to my friend, and I ended up saying, I was being like silly, and I was talking about, I used a sexual term, I was talking about a sexual act, that there is a term for, that is like, I don't know, is this okay with you? I said teabagging. I don't know, I was joking around, I said something about teabagging, and literally at that moment, Ed Norton, who's on the other side of the room, whips around, and he goes, "What's teabagging?" And I was like, "Hey, Ed Norton." I was like, "It's nothing, it's nothing." And he was like real into following up on, he was like, "No, what is that?" And then I had to explain it to him. And I will now read from my book. Would you believe we didn't become friends? I don't. Hold on. Did I even mark this up? Sorry, guys. But he was so nice. He's so nice. He's so nice. Okay, this is a chapter called Ma'am. Is there controversy about it?
How did he survive middle school?
You're so furious. I just heard you furiously whispering. But
I just don't understand.
Did he have his own special word for it?
Go to middle school.
I don't know. Maybe he might have been homeschooled. I don't know. Clearly, he turned out incredible. This is a chapter called Ma'am. Like all women, I started out life as a miss. When I was a little girl, people would sometimes call me miss, but in a way that was kind of playful and silly because I was just a child. Then in my early tweens, I moved into a category at department stores called junior miss, which is basically for girls who don't have breasts yet. And then once I was a full-on teenager, I was to the world at large just miss. How can I help you, miss? Miss, you dropped $1. Miss, can I buy you a drink? Excuse me, miss, I'm interested in having sex with you. The last one is the most important thing about being a miss. Being a miss means you're just a slip of a thing, a nymph, slim-hipped and flat-stomached and sexually alluring. Everyone wants a piece of a miss. Miss sounds like you're mostly air, like your body has the magic and delicacy of a wind chime, and when you walk down the street, everyone around you hears little bells. Then one day, everything changes. I don't remember the exact place or time I was first called ma'am. That's abnormal for me because I tend to remember the details of traumatic things. Where I was when I was first stung by a bee, the friend's house I was at when I watched the disappointing finale of Seinfeld, which means on some level I must have blocked it out. I know I was around 30. In my mind, I was still wind chiming around town as a miss. And then some waiter, or maybe it was a teller at a bank, looked me up and down and decided I was a ma'am. I didn't expect to be called ma'am any more than I expected Clive Owen to walk in and demand we have sex. Although in my head there might still have been a chance because again, I thought I was a miss. And when you're a miss, there's a very real possibility anyone at any given moment wants to fuck you, including celebrities. In that moment, I felt very viscerally the beginning of something slipping away. Not just the possibility of fucking Clive Owen, but something bigger. My image of myself. How was I being perceived as a ma'am? And by how, I mean why. And just what is a ma'am anyway? And why was I so upset? Ma'am makes us crazy for a bunch of reasons. 1, ma'am is yet another horrible sounding word in the lexicon of words that women are stuck with to describe various aspects of their body, life, mental state, hair. Such as vagina, moist, fallopian tubes, yeast infection, clitoris, frizz. These are all terrible words, and yet they are assigned descriptors. Who made up these words? Women certainly didn't. If at the beginning of time, right after making vaginas, God had asked me, because he just made vaginas, what would you like your most intimate and enjoyable part of yourself to be called? I most certainly wouldn't have said vagina. No woman would, because vagina sounds like a First World War term that was invented to describe a trench that has been mostly blown apart but is still in use. Even off the very top of my head, I feel like I could have come up with something better. Like, for instance, the word papoose, which actually, as I'm typing it, feels like an incredibly brilliant word for a vagina. Am I right? My papoose. So cute. But ma'am fits right into this pattern. Ma'am is the onomatopoeia of drowning in a lake-sized bowl of borscht. 2, ma'am isn't just a form of address. It's a way for a perfect stranger to let us know how old he thinks we are. What is the purpose of this? Why does a clerk at West Elm have to let me know he thinks he knows how old I am? And for the record, I am not someone who cares about hiding my age. As I'm typing this, I'm 39, and by the time this book is in anyone's hands, I will be at the very least 40. I'm 40. And maybe even 41. And if you wait just a few more years to read it, I will probably be mainlining Boniva. The issue isn't my comfort with my age, so much as it's the why the fuck, why does this need to be a factor in every interaction I have? Why do we have to be a nation divided between misses and ma'ams? Why do I have to be trained to respond to a different name once the world at large has decided I am no longer a fawn? I guess fawns deal with the same thing. A fawn is a fawn until one day she's checking in for a flight to Burbank at JetBlue, and the TSA agent calls her doe. But I would rather be a doe than a ma'am. 3, ma'am is doubly insulting because we hear men being called all day, and sir is awesome. We long for sir. Sir is what knights are and what Paul McCartney is. Sir sounds like you're sitting at a castle, a round table, eating a rack of lamb. Sir means you're respected and maybe a little bit feared. No one fears ma'am, except in the sense that they may be worried, oh no, what if this ma'am starts hitting on me, then what will I do? Sir, your private plane is ready for boarding. Congratulations on becoming President of the United States, sir. Men are called sir starting from when they're old enough to be called anything, and they stay sir through old age, at which point chances are they're still fucking a miss. Men don't have to deal with the fact that at some point in their early midlife they will find themselves tossed into a linguistic system that will let them know in no uncertain terms that in the eyes of the world, essentially, they've begun to die. When you're called sir, you're being called the same thing that James Bond is called. For a lot of guys, being called sir is the closest they'll ever get to being an actual man. When I'm called ma'am, I'm being called the same thing that Senator Barbara Boxer is being called. And she's 75. Except scratch that. Even she famously got bent out of shape when she was addressed on the Senate floor as ma'am. She corrected the person, firmly asking to be called senator. But if you're not a senator and have no plans to be one, and probably couldn't be even if you wanted to be because of some unfortunate YouTube videos where you do stand-up about your sex life, what do you ask to be called? We've never come up with a good alternative, but I know you can't complain if you're not trying to solve the problem yourself. So, may I offer, here's my ideas. Your Highness, Meryl, Khaleesi, Queen, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. You will probably only get that reference if you're old enough to be a man. Since that first ma'am, I've now been called ma'am more times than I care to count. Once in a blue moon, I am still called miss. It's like being carded, except way better, because in the instance when someone cards me, it's either because even though they know I'm of age, they have to do it by law, or they're just being terribly condescending. In either case, we do the little song and dance where they ask to see ID, even though it's clear I have no first rodeos left. Then they wait for me to say, oh my God, really? Wow, I haven't been carded in forever, thank you. I hate saying it, but it's inevitable, I will say it. I don't know how to stop saying it. The farce of being asked to prove I'm not 18 is so ridiculous that it feels like someone needs to acknowledge the ocean of bullshit we are suddenly standing in. But someone calling me miss means maybe they still see a little of my former missy self underneath my non-skinny jeans and my glasses and the wiry white hair sprouting from around my forehead. I do still have decent boobs. They were better when I wrote this than I nursed a child. And thin arms, and I've never smoked. And when I'm called miss, I feel an uncomfortable little thrill. Because as much as I hate to admit it, I miss the sound of that light wind-chimey word. It's embarrassing to care what someone calls me, because the #1 symptom of being old is caring whether someone thinks you're old. But the truth is, sometimes I do miss. But there are also things I don't miss about being miss. I don't miss being so vulnerable. I don't miss not knowing anything about anything. I don't miss not knowing it's better to have your clothes tailored. I don't miss people talking to me like I'm a full-on idiot, even though I often deserved it because that's pretty much what I was. I don't miss not being able to see the most obvious red flags that silly narcissistic men were waving. I don't miss feeling so horribly unsure about what my path should be in life and feeling deathly afraid of what making the wrong turn might mean. I didn't decide to take a leap with my life until I was 30. I threw away a boyfriend and a steady job and my parents' way of life and went after what I wanted. It was right when I turned into a ma'am that I finally put up my dukes. Ma'am. I love that
Thanks, Lindy. So your book is really vulnerable. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like it's kind of par for the course?
But both. Yes, for me, being vulnerable is kind of par for the course. I'm a fan of vulnerability. I think it's a good quality, and often for me it comes from any attempt at pretending that everything's cool and okay is so not really doable for me at any given moment that I kind of feel like it's better to just kind of let it all hang out and risk it being what it is. If that is that vague enough?
How do you decide, because I struggle with this, Well, actually, I don't struggle with it. I don't know. How do you decide what to hold back and like what to? Because I feel like I have to keep things that just belong to me. Otherwise, I become a sort of public carcass that.
A public carcass. Oh, is that our band? Public carcass.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I feel like, I mean, Lindy's book is exquisite. I love it so much, and it's interesting that you would ask that because I feel like, oh my God, this is someone who doesn't keep anything back. I mean, obviously, I'm sure for your private, we all have a private life.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there are moments where you're like writing, and then delete? Like, oh, I can't share that? Or do you kind of know?
It's mostly like, wait, why? I'm asking you questions.
Let's be clear, you're getting some questions.
I'm mostly like, I don't, I don't write things that, I cut things that I think are going to hurt other people.
Right, yeah, I did that too.
And I don't, and I cut things where I did, like, the very most shameful things where, like, I behaved poorly and not in a cute way.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I never, the biggest thing is I definitely don't ever want to write anything that would hurt anybody. Yeah, and so.
What about, like, all your exes that are in the book? Has anyone come at you?
Oh, I write it really about 2 exes in the book, and I have not heard from them, and nor will I seek them out. I felt like I did try to be honest to what my experience was, and try to be fair. I didn't want to like hatchet anybody, because also that wasn't, I wrote about my boyfriend from my 20s and a guy that I dated in my early 30s, and I don't want to say they're like terrible people, one of them maybe, but no, I never want anyone to feel like, ooh, that's awful. I don't want to be mean.
Yeah. So I feel like, weirdly, especially when you write about, and I'm speaking of myself too,
Cool.
When you write about being kind of a mess,
Mm-hmm.
people find that very inspirational. I feel like my book is all me being a disaster,
Oh, yeah.
and then people are like, oh my God. I guess that's just vulnerability again.
I think that is vulnerability again.
So do you feel comfortable with being looked at as kind of a role model? And are people doing that to you? Like,
See me as a role model? I mean, Lindy, I feel like you are very famous. And I am like, this book came out like last week, and I'm like a behind the scenes person. So if I can inspire, I do, when I meet like young people who want to be comedy writers or performers, and especially young women, I'm always really excited to try and talk to them and encourage them. And it's really exciting to me when anybody wants to do comedy, especially women, because I just feel like comedy could benefit from more and more ladies doing it. So that.
I was going to say, you write really beautifully about Joan Rivers, and
Joan.
I wanted to, I'm sure you know this, but you are very actively, leading this, I know, don't do a weird thing.
Oh, I know, I did a weird thing. I did a lean with my body. Do you like that I'm just slowly imploding as you say whatever you're about to say?
No, I mean, I'm just very grateful to you for doing the work that you do, and you are carrying the, it's not carrying a
bag,
torch.
the purse.
Carrying a torch means that you
Have a crush on
have
someone.
a crush on someone.
I have a crush on
the
everyone.
baton,
A baton.
You're running forward with the baton that was Joan's baton.
Oh my gosh, that's really nice to say that.
I said it really well.
No, you totally did. You nailed it. You're nailing it. We're nailing this like banter.
I am carrying the torch of Shakespeare. The baton.
The torch ton.
But
The torch. A torch?
the batorch.
A torch. Half torch, half baton.
Mm-hmm. Look at us.
Look at us
Much like
inventing
Shakespeare
words.
inventing words.
There you go.
So, was there a question there? No, it was.
No, we're all just having a moment as a room.
Do you and I don't have any preferred answer here at all. Do you think of what you do as making feminist comedy, or is it just you make things that are funny that happen to gel with your... I don't even know if you consider yourself a feminist. You don't have to.
I very strongly consider myself a feminist. I was just like, what if I was like, no, I don't love the word feminist. I can't stand it.
I don't hate
No,
men.
it's like I don't hate men. No, I'm feminist. Which doesn't mean you hate men. Yeah, people ask that. I mean, and I think often like when people are asking about Inside Amy Schumer and they're interested in that process of how that room works, I think it's like the old chestnut of like, and maybe it's this way for you as well, when you very gutsily write about things like your abortion or other things, or even like knocking over the table with pizza, like the personal is political. Like everything that you do, you know, especially as a woman telling your story in a world where women weren't getting a lot of attention for telling their stories or a lot of validation for telling their stories. That is a feminist act. I don't think I ever sit down with the intention of, I'm about to do a feminist story time.
You open a Word document and write feminist comedy at the top.
Yeah, I have oh my God, what a terrible piece of work that would be. But I'm like thrilled if it's seen as being something that kind of helps carry forward the idea that women's stories are as important as anybody's stories.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this in the book, I think, that we've just all spent generations reading about men's feelings about the minutia of their boners, and then like we write something that mentions periods and people are like, oh God,
Yeah.
like so narcissism victims. Professional victims, wah wah wah.
I was gonna ask you, I mean, because I'm sure you did like a ton of press for your book, and I've been doing all of these little phone interviews with various outlets and radio shows and podcasts, it's horrible. And for the most part, everyone's a delight to talk to. And today I talked to someone who I thought was a real garbage dick, and he started out, he was like, well, let's do a lightning round of questions. And one of them was like, everything he said was disgusting. And one of them was, he's like, so why are you and other female comedians so fascinated by your vaginas? And like, that was like the first 2 minutes of the interview. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna really be a cunt to you. Like, I am tanking this for you right now, right here, right now. And he was such a bag of dicks. Do people ask you shitty questions ever?
I think, no. I mean, no, nothing that bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
No.
He told me he had Googled me, and he was like, so, because, I write about different aspects of my appearance and being a woman in the world, and you're constantly being judged. And I made a reference to my ass being the shape of a trapezoid. And I was talking about going to bar method class. That's, I think, the chapter is in. So he's like, so I Googled you, and I think you're cute. He's like, but I couldn't find any pictures of your ass. So, it was
Oh
crazy town.
You have to tell me who it was later.
I made a point of immediately forgetting his name. Yeah.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you, so we discovered after reading each other's books that there are a bunch of weird similarities.
Yes, we have some really uncanny, specific things that are similar.
Yeah. So the main one being that I told an anecdote about being a child and being just horrified about my period, and to the point where I would not speak about it even to my mother, so that I would just I would like go into denial as soon as it was over and be like, well, that's never coming back. And then,
I'm menopausal now, right? This month I'm in menopause. This month I'm in menopause.
Right.
This month I'm in menopause.
And then, weirdly, it would show up again, and I would go to the bathroom cupboard, and so one time there was nothing in there. Because my mom was menopausal, and she wasn't counting the maxi
Yeah, she's not restocking like she's at a Best Buy.
Right. So I was like, oh. And, you know, she was an adult with a job, so I'm like crying and whispering like, there's no stuff in the thing. And she's like, yeah, well, I have to go to work, so sorry, not running to QFC right now to buy you maxi pads because you're a freak who can't talk out loud.
This is your punishment.
Yeah.
You're punished.
So instead, she was nicer than that, but she was like, listen, you have one option, which is opens ancient first aid kit, pulls out menstrual pad belt.
The belt. Does anyone here know what that is? Oh, more than I would imagine. It's from the old times.
It's a rare and precious antiquity.
Yes. It's a relic.
It's a relic.
It's a relic.
And it's a
It could be in an Indiana Jones movie where they find it in a chest and skulls come out before you find it at the bottom. Ghost skulls.
Yeah, I put it on and my face melted.
Screaming face.
Yeah, no, it's an elastic band that goes around your waist, and then in the front and the back it has little danglies
Clippies.
with clippies that clip a sort of
Diaper
pad. Thank you.
Thick diaper pad.
Yeah, so
Like a hot dog bun.
like a hot dog.
Hot dog bun pad.
You know, it's possible that I had to use a real hot dog bun because we didn't have any pad. Well, there must have been an antique pad in the first aid kit too. So I had to go to school wearing a hot dog diaper, and then I read Jessi's book and.
Okay, so a young Jessi Klein is at her grandmother's house on Yom Kippur. Jessi Klein's 13. She gets her period. I go home to my mom's house. Anyway, I was like, hey, give me a period. And that's how I talked. And she was like, no problem. We've got everything you need right here. Whips out the belt with the clippies and the hot dog bun. And I was like, go to town, this is it. And I was like, cool, okay, this is it? She's like, this is it. I don't know why she thought that was what it is. How she had not kept up with menstrual technology updates. In fairness, why didn't I know? Why? I wore that thing for a fucking year. I know, and I think you asked me very smartly, where was she getting the replenishment? So I was born in 1975, so this was 1988. They were somewhere.
You can't.
Maybe there was an underground railroad of like
black market, non-adhesive
hot dog bun pads. Anyway, and then one day I walked into a CVS and I was like, what's all? What? Anyway, we both wore the belts. It's crazy.
Yeah,
times.
and then you talk about getting into tampons very late.
Oh, so
which
late.
I also did because I was like, I don't get that. I don't know.
Oh, it's a lot for me. This is a lot for me.
Why are we so weird?
I don't. All I know is when I found out that I was just like, this is like a time life moment thing for us. Like we both wear the belt, and I think in some countries, cultures we'd be married.
Yeah.
When you meet someone who wants to wear the belt, you're just somehow linked forever. Should we do Q&A with the people?
Let's do Q&A with the people.
Let's do Q&A with the people. I think we've landed on a subject everybody wants to know more about. Do the people have any questions? Yes.
I'd love to know how you responded to the Bag of Dicks interviewer about vagina obsession.
Yeah. Well, I said, that's a hard pass to answering that question. I was like, I'm not answering that. I'm just not even dealing with it. And he was like, okay. And then I just got meaner and meaner to him. I just had no patience. He was such a waste. And he was talking about, he said something about his mother. And like, every time he talked about his mother, I was like, well, your mom sounds cool. Like, I like your mom. And he said something about, oh yeah, I've told her I'll be really mad if she outlives me. And I was like, oh, that seems like that would be really cool. I would love for your mother to outlive you. So that's gonna be on some radio station or something.
Was that here?
I don't know.
Local?
No, it wasn't
Oh, okay.
local. He's in some dark
Because if it was
space.
local, I would have some ideas.
No, definitely no. You guys would never produce such a hefty bag of nonsense as that.
I don't know. There's that one station, you guys.
Oh, is there like a zoo?
Yeah.
Some sort of a morning zoo?
There's like a 24-hour zoo station.
A zoo.
Yeah.
All right, what else? Is that it? That was, oh, hi.
Thanks. I just started your book. It's really good.
Oh, thank you so much.
That and the mirrors you work against.
Um,
My skin looks so good.
oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
So I have a question for you. I was thinking where you are right now, like you're just starting to have this book on the bestseller list and get this attention. And I know you work with some famous people that get a lot of attention, and that's hard, right? That comes with the price. That doesn't sound interesting to me, being
Yeah, no, it seems pretty
it
bad.
seems hard.
Yeah.
So are you thinking about that? Are you worried about that? Do you think that's crazy, or do you think that could happen?
Well, it's interesting. So she's asking about me having a book coming out, and that I do work with some very famous people now. Like, you know, when I met Amy Schumer, we've known each other for years just from stand-up, and when we met and started working on Inside Amy Schumer, she was a very talented stand-up who was consistently working, but was not the person who is right now on the cover of Vogue. And it was crazy to watch her become so famous. So she was asking me if I feel like now being in just this teensy teensy. See, so it's fine. I'm still at Good Evening Shoppers. This is the right level for me. Like, this is where I want to be. I want to be cut off by a loudspeaker system saying Good Evening Shoppers. This is as much as I can take. I am being completely serious. Even just, yeah, I mean, I am not a famous person. I'm very excited that people are enjoying the book. I mean, I'm doing 5 days of press things. It feels overwhelming. Putting on just this shirt felt like, this is very dressed up. I'm not kidding. It's hard. I don't, when I was a kid, I guess at some point, like when you're a kid, you're like, ooh, what about being famous? No, I don't want, this is plenty. This amount, if one more person walks in, I'll pass out. Yeah. Yes.
You guys are both just so amazing, and I invited my 15-year-old. She's like, "No, Mom," and I was like, "Oh." 2 things. One, I have to report that every day in the crew carpool, as a rule, someone says vagina. They all YouTube how to use tampons. Like by age 10, there's a thing.
They're YouTubing
So
it.
No.
They don't just have the diagram that makes no sense of the side of a lady, where you're like, what's the front of her? Yeah. Well, YouTube sounds like an
Who
improvement.
knew there were a couple holes? I mean, I didn't. You know.
No, there's so many more holes than you think when you're a kid. Remember when you think you have like one hole? I remember I asked my mom about, I was like, I was like, Mom, you gave birth out of your butt, right? Seriously, I was like, that's the where the solids come out. So I came out of your butt, and she was like, no. And I was like, what? Then I gave birth. What was your question?
It's great. They're so beyond it now, and they have apps for like when they're gonna have their. It's just.
Oh
great.
yeah,
They know
period
everything.
trackers.
It's great. It's
Yeah.
great, and they're all. And every day, one's a lesbian, then one's bi, and then one's like, just give me. I'm not sure yet, Mom. I'm 14. You know. But when you said, so that's not my question. But when you said something about like we female comedians and how you support other comedians, I was thinking, do you really think of yourselves like? I don't think of you as female comedians. Do you really think like it's some sort of like an art or a practice, or that you're like amazing, just really bright, vibrant women that are speaking up, that are like how Amy Schumer says, like, the best friend you always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like
in terms of.
is it a practice, or is this? It just seems like you're just. great, and you have the mic, and you're going to tell the truth.
Do we think of ourselves, are you sort of asking, like, do we think of ourselves as comedians or just, are you asking about the gender label or the comedian label?
No, like that it's a comedian, you know, like that it's, you can learn it as opposed to, give me the fucking mic, a woman has to talk.
Mhm.
I want to tell you about
What do you
stuff.
think?
There's definitely a practice, which is the thing that I'm not a stand-up comedian, and Jessi is a stand-up comedian. I am just a lady yelling into a mic. But you do
I
like
think you're a lot more than that.
Thanks.
I mean, honestly, I laughed out loud so hard at like almost, I mean, just so much of your book, sitting alone in my home, laughing out loud like a crazy person. You are as funny as anyone I've ever met in my life.
Well, thank you.
And I met that guy on the radio today.
No, but
He's
I'm just saying,
hilarious.
I just always want to acknowledge that like stand-up comedy is a very specific craft that people do practice and learn how to do. But you can also just, I think I'm funny at writing.
I think you're very funny at writing. I have not, having worked with Amy, who she is the hardest working person I've ever met in my entire life. This is someone, we would shoot like a 15-hour day. She starts before anyone else at like 5 a.m. to do hair and makeup, and we finish at 11. She's like, I'm gonna go do a spot. I have to go do a set every day. And so I never was that person. I always wanted to do stand-up. I never thought of it, I don't think Amy thought of it as a means to an end necessarily either. But I think I'm okay enough at stand-up. I have my moments. When I look at people who really go to the very top and do it all the time, that's like a whole other thing. But I think we also are in a time now where there's like sort of new genres of being a comedy person where,
YouTube.
yeah, or just you're someone who's a writer, performer, you might do YouTube videos, you do different things. It feels like there's kind of this other space now where things blend together and it's not necessarily one thing or the other, if that makes any sense. Do you want to call in someone? I want you to pick. Hi.
Next time I visit New York, can I write you in advance and you'll sign up to do spots in places so I can see you do stand-up?
Sure, totally. I tend to, when someone asks me to come do stand-up, I'm a pretty easy yes. I'm like, oh, someone wants to do stand-up, okay. Not that many people ask. So yes, totally. Yeah.
I know, like, when I visit LA, I know where to go see comedy, but I don't actually know in New York. And so when I went last time, I just ended up going to the ballet because I was like, I don't know what
Ballet is great too. I won't do ballet. No one needs or wants that. Yes, in the white t-shirt.
So whenever anyone has a birthday, a friend or family member, I always ask, what is the favorite part of their past year? And then, what is a lesson they learned, or what is advice they would give to someone turning the age we just finished? So I just turned 30.
Ooh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And you said that you are recently 40. I don't know how old you are, Lindy. It
I'm
doesn't
34.
matter. 34, great. So I guess my question is, what has been a favorite part of your 30s, and then what is advice you would give me for my 30s?
Ooh, 30s are the
Ooh, you're
greatest.
intense. That's an intense question.
I didn't mean it to be.
No, in a good way. I'm like, your birthday ritual is like, do you want to,
I was just gonna say that being in my 30s is my favorite thing that's ever happened. It's way better than my 20s.
oh yeah, the 20s are just a real shit show for me.
Same.
Like a real dump truck of events.
Yeah. But now I have like a cool job and I got married and I met Jessi Klein.
We met,
That's my favorite event of the past year.
but I had to be 40 when we met. By the way, I'm also almost 41. Gosh, best part of what was the best part of being in my 30s? Yeah. I think I started to get, and this is something I remember like hearing when I was in my 20s, hearing women who are older than me talk about like just getting more comfortable with yourself. And even in the last I have to say turning 40 and having a baby there's something also very freeing once I had the baby. Just like it kind of, I think, a gradual shedding in a non-self-deprecating, fully happy way to just slowly be like, fuck the contest. I am no longer. And I tried to talk about this on stage and it did not go over. But when I was in my 20s, I'd walk into a room or a party and I'd be like, who's the prettiest? Where do I rank? Am I in the top 5? Like, is that Norton here? And now I feel like, I'm so out of that race in a way that is so great. And I walk into, occasionally, I walk into a room, like I did an event for Refinery 29 the other night, and everyone who works there, they were so nice. They're all 20, 22 in a day. They're all fucking adorable. And I'm just like, look at all these beautiful, cute girls. I'm like a man. I'm just like, oh, these women are so hot. And I feel like I am no longer competing about it. I love it. I'm just like, I had a baby. I'm like 15 pounds more than I was. I gained 50 pounds when I was pregnant. I was a big pregnant lady. And I just, I feel very free of worrying about that stuff. I have my moments. I don't want to make it seem like I'm completely liberated from it. But I love giving less and less of a shit every day.
It frees up so much of your time. I used to go to a bar every day to see if someone would pay attention to me.
Oh, yeah.
And now I can watch all the TV that I want.
Oh, so much good TV. We're in a golden age of television.
Yeah. I don't always have to get, can I sub a salad for fries? Just have fries.
I'm gonna get a burger, and then is there a garbage pail for me to throw the bun away?
There's an upcharge for the garbage pail. That's fine. Oh, the upcharge is fine.
I think we can probably take one or two more, right?
Question for Lindy.
Oh.
You talked about being so painfully shy when you were young, and I love your writing.
Oh,
You
thank
are
you.
awesome. Was there a turning point or a moment when you realized you had a voice?
The question is, I talked about being shy. Was there a turning point where I realized that I had a voice? And it was sort of, there were a bunch of little ones where, there was a moment where I realized that it made no logical sense to not speak in front of, my peers in school who I had known since I was 8. I remember being in 8th grade and looking around and being like, why am I shivering right now with terror because I have to make an oral presentation? What's gonna happen? I had a really logical override moment where I was like, this makes no sense, and then it was gone. It was kind of bizarre. But I would say the biggest turning point where the shift where I started what my career is now is writing. When I was at The Stranger and I wrote this post sort of confronting Dan Savage about the way that he wrote about fat people. It was this moment where I realized that, because I don't know if this is gendered, but it felt gendered to me, that as a woman, you're expected to just be nice all the time, and to not rock the boat, and to not really advocate for yourself, and not, you're always taking care of other people and soothing other people and making sure they're okay. And there was this moment where I was like, do I have to do that?
Yeah, no.
And I was like, not only do I not have to do that, I have this amazing platform in which to do the opposite of that. And then I did. I just leapt, and it turned out really well. It was very productive. And then you can look at that. And I didn't really realize this until I wrote the book. You can look at that as kind of the model for all the writing I've done since then. It's all very confrontational and performative, kind of. I don't know, using that leverage to make change, hopefully. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe this will be the last one, and then we can answer questions as we sign.
I was just wondering what you guys are reading right now.
Ooh, what are we reading?
Oh, I just read Jessi Klein's book. It's called We'll Grow Out of It.
Ooh, good segue.
Yeah. It was amazing. Jessica Valenti's book, Sex Objects, is really, really amazing. That's the other thing last thing that I read.
I loved Lindy West's book, available here. It's called Shrill. I am a real dick about reading right now. I was such an avid reader. I actually have been asking people for recommendations. So.
Oh, you know who you should recommend to people?
Who?
Samantha Irby.
Oh, Samantha Irby! Samantha Irby is this blogger who lives in Chicago, and she has this book called Meaty, M-E-A-T-Y. That is actually, yeah, there you go. Thank you for reminding me. That is the second to last book I read. It's such a great time in a year when you can read Lindy West's book and Samantha Irby's book. Anyway, Samantha Irby is this writer who is going to be a huge, big deal. It's such an amazing book. Meaty, M-E-A-T-Y, Samantha Irby. Okay.
Should we sign?
Should we sign? Let's sign. Yeah, you're